like to call the December 17th special meeting of the Montgomery Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honoring the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Ms. Alcantara, are there any registered public comments? There are no registered public comments. The board will go into closed session for the reasons listed on our agenda. We will return shortly to take action if necessary. Folks, we're returning from the special meeting. There are no action items to take from the special meeting, so we will conclude. There are. Thank you. Dr. Ruffin has reminded me that there are some items to take for the special meeting. So, action item that we will consider is the approval of the hire of the athletic director as presented. Board members, is there a motion, or Dr. Ruffin, any comments on that?
Yes, we obviously conducted a thorough search, as Coach Hurd rides off into the sunset and enjoys his retirement after serving our district. I'm recommending that the board hire Brad LaPlante to be our next athletic director. Coach is coming to us from Hutto ISD and been there since 2018. And should the board approve this hire here at our next regular meeting, we'll bring Coach LaPlante up and speak a little bit more about him and give him a chance to introduce himself also.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Ruffin. Board members, any questions or comments?
No questions.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the hire of our AD director.
Thank you,
athletic director.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Ivy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Director LaPlante, thank you and welcome. We're looking forward to working with you in the near future. With that, there are no other items. We will conclude the special meeting. This is the December 17th regular meeting of the Montgomery Independent School District Board of Trustees. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We will be led tonight in the invocation by Ms. Lori Turner. I'd like to please ask you to please join us in the invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much that we are all here tonight. Be with us as we go through this meeting and discuss the things at hand to better the district. Give us wisdom as we make decisions, and also remind us all, keep what this holiday season is about. Thank you so much for sending your son to earth so that we could all be blessed. We love you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honoring the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for being here tonight. Dr. Ruffin, I think we have some special recognitions or some presentations.
We do. Ms. Wells, who are our guests over here, all in their awesome sweaters?
Tonight, we are very excited to welcome a combined jazz band for one of the first times ever. We have a Lake Creek Montgomery High School combined jazz band under the direction of Mr. Cameron and Mr. Boozer. So they've come together to play some holiday music for us, so please enjoy.
All right. Good luck following that up, people. Hey, thank y'all so much for spending your evening with us. We appreciate it. We know y'all are busy and have lives that are probably much more exciting than coming to a board meeting, but we appreciate it. Y'all's talents are incredible. I love the fact that we've got Montgomery and Lake Creek represented within y'all's group. It's a testament to the collaboration between our high schools and commitment to come together and make great opportunities for our students. So thank y'all so much. Y'all are incredibly talented, way more so than I could ever imagine being with any of those instruments, half I don't know the name of. Thank y'all.
One more round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought for a second Mr. Hoffman was going to start standing up and dancing. He was close. He was fun to watch from this side. The next part of our special recognition, I'd like to just take a chance to recognize some new leadership positions. Obviously, we've got Mr. LaPlante, Coach LaPlante that's here, but also before I talk about him, I'm going to introduce Mr. Justin Marino, who does not want us to do this at all. But Justin is our new chief of staff, our new old chief of staff. He was employed here, and I ran him off, and he realized he loves being in Montgomery. And so we're blessed enough to get him back. Our communications team has been working tirelessly, and they've been a person down. And they've done an incredible job of holding the rope and maintaining the high level of service that we provide and communication we provide for our community. We're excited to have Justin back to serve on our leadership team. One thing I think is a testament to the support he provides is when I started texting our principals that, hey, we're going to get Justin back and hired on, the level of excitement from our principals was incredible because he's such a resource for them and such an asset to call on and support them as they need be. So, Justin, you got anything to say? Come on.
Thank you, Dr. Ruffin. Appreciate that. First of all, congratulations to Coach Hurd on your retirement. It was a privilege working with you for several years. This school, and I look forward to working with Coach LaPlante as well. This school district is incredible. I had an opportunity to build a communications team here that I'm very proud of. Working with this board and leadership team to serve our principals, our teachers, and our students is ultimately where my heart is. And I could not be more grateful for the opportunity to serve in this capacity. Montgomery ISD is a premier school district. Public education across the country, across the state, we all face the same challenges, but what makes Montgomery different is we run towards the challenges. We solve the issues. We confront problems facing our school district. We have the leaders in place to be leaders in education for the state. And it's just a privilege to serve in this role, and I'm excited to jump back in and work alongside all of you. So, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'd like to take a chance to introduce everyone to our new athletic director, Coach Brad LaPlante. As I mentioned briefly, Brad is currently not anymore. Has served as the athletic director in Hutto ISD since 2018. During his tenure, Brad has established a reputation as a leader of exceptional integrity and work ethic and character. His commitment to supporting coaches and fostering positive relationships among players and parents and the school community has been a hallmark of his leadership style and echoed time and again when we've talked to people about Brad. One thing that really stuck out to me about Brad during the interview process, he referenced this concept of our athletic programs and teams and our student athletes' success as a partnership between the school community, which is the coaches, the admin, the teachers, the student athlete, and the parent, the family. I think you called that a three-legged stool. And if one of those doesn't function, if one of those doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, we don't have successful programs. And so I think that was a very, very clear way of presenting that, because I think it truly is a partnership. But as a forward-thinking, innovative leader, he consistently seeks opportunities to improve and elevate athletic programs. Obviously, we know we've got Coach Hurd. I think he's back there. Awesome. Coach Hurd is leaving, and he's leaving big shoes to fill. And to find someone to match the integrity, the ethics, the approach and belief in what athletics does for our students. It was a big task to fill, and we had a lot of quality applicants. But he's passionate about the role athletics plays in developing young men and young women of character to go be successful adults and make lasting impacts on their community. So Coach LaPlante, I'm going to introduce you, bring you up here, and you can say hello and introduce yourself also.
Thank you, Dr. Ruffin and Dr. Fuller, members of the board. Great to be here. Awesome, excited. Be honest, really was not looking for a job. Thought I was in a great place. Good friend said Montgomery is the place to be. Great people, awesome programs. Of course, I started to research and think about it and see that there's 48% of your kids are involved in athletics. That's great numbers. And then you see the passion of the community. You see the academics that go hand in hand, the success. You have people in the LPGA, people going 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds deep in the playoffs. So that was a place where my wife, Christy, who was also an educator, we want to be. We thought it was Lake Conroe when we were going to retire. I'm plenty gray, but we're here now, and we want to serve at a fine place like this. We see the pride. We see the passion that you have in this community, and definitely the participation. Do know that I have big shoes to fill. Excited about that. That's a great way to make an even bigger impact, because there's a lot of good things going on here, but I want to do that and more and work alongside. I see we have a number of coaches here tonight, so excited to join hip to hip with them. Can't wait to get here in January and roll up the sleeves and find out more about things from the inside. Right now, I'm an outsider, soon to be on the inside, and seeing all the great things going on from the 4 secondary campuses and principals, and definitely our student athletes and our coaches to work alongside them.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Dr. Ruffin, if you don't mind, I might want to say one or two words to our coaches. It's very seldom that we get them together like this, so I get to pick on them every once in a while. And say thank you all for being here for Mr. LaPlante. And, Mr. LaPlante, I want to say whether or not it's the band, whether or not it's your athletic teams, our kids are wonderful, wonderful kids. You're going to get to meet some of them very shortly. And I just want you to know that I think you chose wisely. They make the job really, really wonderful. So thank you for joining us. Any additional special recognitions, Dr. Ruffin?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Alcantar, are there any registered public comments? There are no registered public comments. Board, we will now move into consent agenda. Does a board member want to pull any item from consent agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Consent agenda carries. Thank you. Folks, we are now into action items. 6A, we got a pretty healthy list of action items tonight. Item 6A, consider approval of an employee retention incentive as presented.
Yes, sir. Before I dive off into that, I know we've got coaches and principals and Coach LaPlante. I know you got a 2-hour or so drive, and Ms. LaPlante, pleasure. Thank you for being here. Y'all feel free. Y'all don't have to stick around. Y'all can head out and visit out in the hallway or something. I mean, don't everybody jump up at once, but this is the exciting part. Yeah. Oh, photo. Picture. Coach LaPlante. Get a picture real quick.
With us.
chest ready for them, you know, like, and then just. I gotta move, I can't see. I had to. Where did he go?
Lizzie went to the bathroom.
Sorry about that, guys. All right, folks, thanks for humoring us on that. Sorry about that. I just wanted to catch Coach Hurd one more time and pick on him as well. All right, back to action item 6A. Consider
Yes, thank you.
approval of employee retention incentive.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this and present this action item upon the board's request. As everyone is aware, in November, we successfully passed Proposition A, and that entire campaign was, there you go, let me get the doors. That entire campaign was focused on our people. The major funding priority of Prop A that we consistently communicated to our community was we want to retain our staff. And when it passed, obviously that was a huge check mark of retaining our staff, because it meant no employee group was in danger of having their positions dissolved going into next school year to balance our budget. And after a recent budget update and time spent with the board reviewing where we currently are financially with the increased revenues of Prop A, it was clear that we have the capacity now to explore compensation increases for our staff going into the 25-26 school year, which is really exciting. And I want to commend the board for providing the direction and having the desire to do something immediately, right? We know we have the capacity to do something next year, but there was really a desire to put something together to immediately show the support and the appreciation of our staff. And so this action item that is being recommended provides a $500 retention stipend for all full-time staff members that, if approved, will fall on their December 20th paycheck this week. This retention stipend, it does not hinder our ability to provide compensation increases going into next school year. And as we all know, we have a legislative session that's about to begin. There's a lot of uncertainties with how legislation may impact public education funding, which will also drive some of those compensation considerations going into next school year. But however, because our community supported us and for the passage of Prop A, our district is in a position to immediately make a positive impact on our staff through this retention stipend. And so what is before you is to approve a $500 one-time retention stipend to be paid out this week to all full-time staff.
All right, board members, before we just begin discussion, I'll make the motion, put the motion on the table to approve employee retention incentive as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. And now discussion, questions?
I don't have any questions. I just want to make a comment that it's a really good thing that our community got behind us and stood behind the district. They saw the value in our staff and our employees, and it's a really great thing that we can do this time of year to help all of our staff, not just one section, but it's every bit of our staff, from bus drivers to police officers to teachers to everyone involved. And it's just a great pleasure that we get to sit up here and we get the opportunity to vote on this and put this out there for you guys. It's an honor.
I think that's about as much of a ditto as I could ever say. Amen, Mr. Nguyen. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, so the motion and the second is on the table. I'd like to call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Ruffin, and to everybody that made that possible. All right, item 6B, consider approval of nominations for the MCAD Board of Directors.
Yes, so it's actually changed a little bit with Senate Bill 2 that came out, but so as a taxing entity, we have the option and the opportunity to nominate someone to serve on the Montgomery County Appraisal District Board of Directors. It's an oversight position. It's an oversight board. And so the official ballot, what we're doing and talking about today, is just a nomination of a person to be placed on a ballot that will be given to us on January 20th to then cast votes towards any of those individuals that are on the ballots. And so the option now is to nominate anyone that Montgomery ISD would feel comfortable with putting on the ballot to serve in the MCAD board.
So this one I will do kind of out of order. We will just have a discussion before we make a nomination because we have to have names to nominate. So I'd like to put forward one name, Bruce Tuff. He has served on the MCAD Board of Directors before. He's had a history there. I've spoken with him. Many of us have spoken with him. We believe he has that capacity to continue good work in that regard. And so I'd like to throw that name out there. Board members, are there any questions for me on that name? All right. Is there any other additional nominations?
I would also be in support of Bruce Tuff.
Mr. Tuff. All right. Thank you, Mr. Robb. Any other nominations or questions? Okay, so then I'll place the motion to nominate Bruce Tuff as Montgomery's nomination for the MCAD Board of Directors. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. That motion carries. All right, item 6C, consider approval of the MISD legislative priorities as presented, which aligns with goals 1 through 5.
Yes, so we've got a little presentation to go through, and myself and our, for those that are unaware, our board is divided up into certain committees, and we've got board members that serve on a bond committee. We've got board members that serve on the legislative platform committee. And so Mr. Nguyen, Mr. Cameron, and Ms. Ivy serve on the legislative platform committee, and so we'll walk through this presentation. But what it does is it highlights the things of value for Montgomery ISD, in which we'll engage our legislators in conversations about and continuing to advocate for our students and our staff here within this district. If you go to the next slide, it just goes over the purpose of why we're doing this. We have a vision, we have a mission. In order for those vision and missions to come to fruition, we need to make sure that we're advocating for the resources and the opportunities to do things here locally to accomplish those priorities. Where did these things come from? Where did the input and feedback come from? Some of it, big chunk of it was conversations that I had through that first 100-day opportunity in meeting everyone. And then ongoing feedback from different stakeholders. Obviously, our board legislative committee spent time collaborating through these things. You'll see as we walk through this, there's really 4 areas of priority. One deals with school finance, safety and security, Texas Education Code Chapter 37, and then just in general, things that deal with providing local control for the school district.
MISD also asked the legislature to move forward with enrollment-based funding instead of attendance-based. We staff our schools based on the number of students enrolled, factoring in the state-mandated student-to-teacher ratios. Texas is one of the few states in the country that still funds based on attendance rather than enrollment. Technology has allowed us to minimize the educational impact to a student who is absent, which has led to the decreased attendance rates across the state, which results in less funding per student provided by the state of Texas. Funding for public education needs to be a priority across the state of Texas. This legislative session, there has not been an increase in the state's base per student funding level since 2019. And school districts across the state, including MISD, are challenged to keep up with the increased costs due to inflation and other factors. Through the Prop A campaign, we were able to highlight many of the significant challenges we face here at MISD. Lower per student funding levels than the state average due to state funding formulas, record high inflation, rising costs for special education services, and the many unfunded mandates that place a strain on our operating budget. Prop A was an important step towards getting our district funding levels closer to the state average, but more must be done to ensure that we can make a meaningful increase to employee compensation and maintain important student programs and safety and security measures. MISD encourages the legislature to provide substantial increase to the basic allotment. This increase should also provide districts with the ability to control those funds locally, which is why we're asking that the requirement from House Bill 3 in 2019 that force districts to spend a prescribed percentage on staff compensation be removed. Special education continues to be a major function of our budget, and the costs continue to increase. MISD has seen special education student enrollment increase from 8.4% in 2019 to 15.8% in 2024. We are also providing increased higher cost services to meet our students' needs, which is why increased funding for special education is a legislative priority for MISD.
The safety and security of our children and our campuses is very important, and our police officers do an excellent job here in our district, but they're underfunded. House Bill 3 requires MISD staff to staff armed officers on every campus. Our district made this a priority prior to it being mandated by law, and we actually go above the state requirement by having 2 armed officers at each high school. MISD has accomplished this through making safety and security a priority budget item and having our MISD Police Department providing maximum control and oversight of the services provided through our police department. MISD acknowledges how important and impactful this law is to the safety and security of our campuses. However, it is also a great example of an unfunded mandate. The safety and security allotment provided by the state covers less than a quarter of the overall expenditure to staff armed officers on each campus. Districts that elect to use school marshals or guardians are not subject to as considerable of an expense. This is why we believe it is appropriate for varying levels of funding to be provided to school districts based on how they meet the House Bill 3 requirement. A district like MISD, who staffs its own police department, should be provided with enough funding to cover the cost of the House Bill 3 requirement. Another important aspect here in Montgomery ISD is the mental health needs of all our children. Our school counselors are tasked with a lot of responsibilities related to mental health, like building skills relating to managing emotions, positive relationships, and decision-making, assist with early mental health prevention and intervention. They are trained in grief-informed and trauma-informed practices to assist our students in crisis. They assist in creating a safe space and a supportive school climate. They also teach substance abuse prevention and intervention. They also teach suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. They need time to meet with our students who are struggling. Last year, counselors documented 111 threats to either through self-harm or through suicidal thoughts. Our students need easier access to counselors to address all the above needs. The recommended ratio for students to counselors is 350 to 1. We currently staff on a 450 to 1 ratio, with elementary counselors serving over 700 students. MISD encourages the state legislature to provide sustainable funding to help ensure the support and services of school counselors focused on meeting the mental health needs of our students.
All right. Topic that is going to be front and center with the legislator is vouchers or school choice program. And within Montgomery ISD, we pour a lot of effort into providing a premier education, and we think we do. We think we provide an education and educational opportunities that meet the needs of all of our students. Therefore, we disagree that this issue is and should be considered a priority for the legislator going into this session. But reality is reality, and recognizing that it has been very clear that the state leadership has maintained it to be a priority. So honestly, just taking this approach of if it's going to be considered, we've got to make sure we have a voice at the table. Prior to any voucher legislation being considered, that we must fully fund the maintenance and operation needs for public education. One consideration is ensure funding allocated per student through any voucher program is no greater than what we receive for the basic allotment and does not divert resources away from public schools. The other big consideration is the fact that voucher legislation should include measures requiring entities accepting tax dollars to be held to the same standards we are, and the same expectations in areas of ensuring academic accountability, whether that's through state testing, financial accountability, whether that's through audits of the first rating, student safety and security. And I'm going to pause for a second and just share our sympathies and thoughts with those that are impacted from the tragedy that occurred yesterday at a school shooting in Wisconsin at a private school. We have certain expectations that we have to meet for the safety and security of our kids. And we have to accept everybody here in Montgomery ISD. If you live within our district, we're here to serve you. And homeschool funding and homeschools should not qualify for voucher funding. Going into Texas Education Code Chapter 37, to give you some just brief background of Chapter 37, it's the part of the Education Code that deals with student discipline and how we can address student discipline. Our take in it is that it is overdue for updates and revisions considering educational challenges relating to student behavior, discipline, and truancy. We within Montgomery ISD are part of the Student Behavior Management Coalition. We collaborated with districts across the state to craft these following legislative priorities. One is local control regarding student discipline. I'll give you an example. Within Education Code 37, it limits pretty specifically an age range. You know, students under this age, here are your disciplinary options. If you talk to our teachers, if you talk to our staff, we're seeing behaviors from 6, 7, 8-year-olds that we didn't see from 6, 7, and 8-year-olds when Chapter 37 was crafted. And so it needs to be revisited seriously by our legislators and updated. We've got some other policy suggestions in there, and I want to reiterate why this is a priority. This is probably one of the legislative topics that have the most direct impact on our staff. Changes to this allow us to support our teachers in the classroom better. It allows our administrators to craft and manage discipline management plans more effectively. Next priority within that Student Behavior Management Coalition is discipline flexibility. Just as we apply different levels of support for academic learning, disciplinary actions and behavior support should be given to address these specific needs. Policy suggestions include DAP removal for additional circumstances, allow for removal to a virtual setting, and allow expulsion for serious offenses. Right now, we're really limited on what options what cards we can play when it comes to trying to address student discipline. Safe classrooms for students and teachers is paramount. Like I mentioned, we're seeing behaviors in grade levels that you didn't see many years ago. And honestly, it's unsafe in some of these settings and environments for our staff because we don't have a lot of the resources necessary and the flexibility necessary to ensure safety. But honestly, disruptive students, they must not be permitted to continually disrupt the learning environment for others or put others at any sort of safety risk. Policy suggestions talk about expansion of behaviors defined for suspension, including significant disruptions, mental health service increases, an expansion of the threat assessment paradigm, and then parent rights and responsibilities. I mentioned Coach LaPlante's belief in terms of athletics. That can be said for any part of our educational system. It is a partnership. We've got to foster a relationship. We need active and engaged parents in this process, and we need them to also have some responsibilities when it comes to their child's behavior. It should not be up to our assistant principal solely to improve discipline and behavior for that child. So encouraging them to look into options that include expanding rights and responsibilities on parents and helping us address some of these more serious behaviors. And the last priority is training and resources regarding behavior management practices. Educators are taught classroom management and pedagogy. They're not licensed in how to support students with severe behaviors. And our culture is shifting in terms of what kids are exposed to at an early age. And we have to be reflective of that and look in the mirror and really assess what are our current capabilities, what are our current training levels, and when it comes to these things. And so encouraging additional training and support in these areas is the last priority there.
So here with some local control, last legislative session, our legislators did take a step forward in refining the requirements of House Bill 4545. So now we implement the requirements of House Bill 1416, which puts requirements in place for students who are unsuccessful on the STAR test. Students are subject to a set number of accelerated instruction hours to be completed during the school day. So MISD supports the efforts to ensure students who were unsuccessful on STAR to have access to accelerated instructions. However, Districts do need more flexibility and local control on how instruction is carried out. Teachers and administrators with the most relevant knowledge of those students, of that student, should be determining on a local level the most appropriate amount of accelerated instruction hours for these students. So MISD encourages the legislature to continue to refine House Bill 1416 to allow for more local control and provide additional funding to meet the accelerated instruction requirements. Districts should remain in control of the timelines on calling bond elections. MISD opposes any legislation that would limit a district's ability to call a bond election in May and limit bond elections to be held in November only. In addition, MISD opposes legislation that creates mandatory ballot wording that is confusing or misleading to our voters. Currently, there is ballot language that is required by law that is confusing to voters. We support any effort to remove that requirement, or at a minimum, clarify the intent of the language in the ballots. MISD believes the requirement for CTE periods to be average 45 minutes to qualify for CTE funding needs to be removed. MISD currently has 8 period days with classes just over 45 minutes. There are times that we must adjust our daily bell schedule to complete state-mandated trainings and student assemblies. When bell schedules are adjusted, we are at risk of falling below that 45-minute threshold and losing CTE funding. We encourage the legislator to build in local controller flexibility around the 45-minute CTE requirement, so these adjustments in bell schedules do not result in a significant loss of funding. And then reading academies, teachers that are being trained and prepared in state approved teacher preparation programs are receiving adequate science of teaching reading, science of reading classes at the university level. We are creating teachers that have well-rounded knowledge and application and are able to use that theory to practice. And that is highlighted by their ability to pass the science of reading test, which they all have to take to get certified. So what we're asking is for the legislature to reassess the need for the reading academies for first-year teachers that have passed the science of teaching reading. There is a place for that with teachers who are alt certified or coming in that did not go through a Texas-approved teacher preparation program. But these first-year teachers have a lot on their plate, and to remove something that they're being adequately prepared for at the university level would possibly help with retention. So we would like to reassess that also.
Well, to the board members and Dr. Ruffin that worked on this committee, thank y'all. Board members, what questions y'all have? Comments?
I just want to say thank you to the subcommittee. This is a lot of work and thought that goes into this, and also Dr. Ruffin. Dr. Fuller and I served on this subcommittee for quite a few years, and we are very appreciative and excited that Montgomery continues to have a voice with our legislators. And we hope that it always continues in Montgomery, because in the past we didn't utilize that. We didn't take advantage of that opportunity, and it goes a long way. And I really appreciate the three of y'all putting that time into this and the thought.
So should the board pass this platform, what's next for this document? What will we do, and how will we make that first engagement?
Yeah. So what it'll be a document that's visible on our website. We'll have a place that it's a landing site. We'll obviously put a media release out that's got that link to it. That's just to communicate what our priorities are to the community. When it comes to our local elected officials, what is beneficial to Montgomery is we already have relationships established with them. Like, they are actively sending us draft legislation right now to review and to get our feedback on. And I think that says a lot about them to put that in front of us ahead of time. Allow us to take a look at it and provide feedback, and they receive that feedback. And so the next step is taking this and scheduling intentional meetings to really peel back the layers of these different priorities, and hopefully put forth some opportunities to draft legislation that help craft those. And Mr. Marino and his experience in governance and the government relations piece of it is a huge asset in that category, and communicating with the staffers of the different offices.
Great. Other questions, board members? All right, hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the MISD legislative priorities as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron, and a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank y'all for that great work. Consider approval of purchase over $50,000 for Package E, testing, balancing, and commissioning of equipment.
Good evening, Dr. Ruffton, President Fuller, and Board of Trustees. We appreciate you. Wanted to go over tonight a couple items here. One of them, the first one up, is a proposal for commissioning, testing and balancing for Package E. If you guys remember what Package E is, it's the triplets, often called the triplets. It is the three identical elementary schools. We're doing some work in there. This proposal will actually test and balance a few items. There's a lot of new exhaust fans going into kitchen and bathroom areas, completely redoing the bathrooms in there. There's new boilers going in, and there's new pumps for the chillers. The biggest benefit of the testing and balancing is I feel like if we didn't have this done, we'd probably be running down more problems later on, but they come in and they warranty their work for life on the item. So if they come in and test and balance or balance a air conditioning system, if it goes out of balance, we can bring them back in. But they make sure everything is running as it should and as what we paid for, and also to make sure that it meets the specifications of the job. LTY is the contractor, or the professional service engineers that we are is going to manage and perform this service. They will subcontract this out to TAB. And TAB we've used, and LTY we've used in the past. And this is a smaller project. We've done this with Creekside with the new equipment as well in there, and Lake Creek and the other jobs as well. So we are asking for action on that tonight. Certainly any questions that you guys have.
When will this take place?
Once they get installed, so it's the end of the project, and LTY will manage that. They'll set up the time for TAB to come in. I'm probably going to join them on a couple of those trips to see what they do in the scope of this renovation. It'll be once the boilers are installed at the end of the project, when we're really kind of about to turn it back over and make sure that everything's functioning.
Other questions?
So I see a bunch of new equipment that's being installed in the triplets. The companies that install that new equipment, do they not test that equipment, or do we, why do they not test it or make sure it's balanced?
So that's funny. I asked the same question. So that's not part of the scope of what they do. So they install it, they put it in there, and really what we want to do is make sure the investment that we paid for is functioning correctly. And having an outside third party come in and do that ensures that it will run correctly. For example, if we live in a home, and if we know some rooms get hotter than others in air conditioning because of the dampers aren't right or whatever, when you think about the scope of an entire school, it gets bigger and bigger. And I'm not going to speak for Joe, but probably the number one call we get from campuses is it's too hot or too cold. Okay. This makes sure that those are done correctly. And if it is knocked out of balance, they'll come back and fix it as part of that scope. So there's no guarantee when they install it that it's going to be absolutely perfect. These guys come in as a third party working directly for us and make sure that it is done right. And if it isn't, then we get back with the contractor if there's contractor issues and work through that, but they'll balance it all out.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Dennison. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Abstain? That motion carries. Action item 6E, consider approval of a purchase over $50,000 for furniture at the CTE and Ag Science Center.
So one of the cool things, but also one of the things I struggle with coming in halfway through a project is I didn't get to be a part of the design process, but then at the end I get to see what was picked. Amy Vance and her team went through this is classroom furniture. This isn't like all the stuff that's going to be in the lab spaces, because that's a different process that we'll be bringing to y'all soon. But they picked out some excellent furniture. Huckabee helped with that process and helping us fine-tune the quotes that came in. We actually got two quotes, one from McCoy Rockford, and the other one from Lone Star. Lone Star we'd worked with before with Creekside and Lake Creek, so they've been in the district right now. So they went through that whole thing, the whole selection process. We made some adjustments to it, but in your board packet, you'll see kind of a quick presentation of the furniture we picked. Again, this is just classroom furniture, but Amy and her team, and we actually, one of the things that we wanted to do is let's send a few of these chairs to the kids at the schools and see what they think. And so we took them to some agriculture classes and some FFA classes and some other CTE classes. Said, hey, sit in it. Gave them a couple options to pick. Of course, they picked the one with the wheels, and we're not going to put wheels in all of them. But we asked them more, what is the comfortable one? And what it landed on was one that both met the needs in the classroom. Classroom chairs are big because that's the majority of what you're getting, but they need to be able to hold up to damage. They need to be able to obviously be comfortable, but also very durable. The one that we chose was one that the kids felt good about. It didn't have wheels on all of them. We do have some with wheels, but not a whole lot. And it was in the middle of the price range there. So it's fun to get student feedback on that. They did look at some of the tables as well, and we had some of our staff look at the tables. We have several variety of tables in different classrooms that was chosen by the CTE team, butcher blocks, stainless, and it's some pretty cool products and some pretty nice equipment. The computer labs, the one we chose, has a built-in and integrated plug-and-play is what I would call it. So you have a whole long, and it's in that packet, row of computer lab tables, and you plug it in once, and then each computer can be plugged in separately. So you don't daisy chain, not that we daisy chain anything in the district, but you don't have to do that. And you don't have to run extension cords. It's kind of a plug and play. That was something for functionality that we really wanted to go with. So through all that whole process, it's my recommendation. I feel like the best value for the district is with Lone Star. They came in a little bit less, and Lone Star has had a good run at Creekside and Lake Creek. We had some issues with supply chain at Lake Creek because we had to match the other furniture. They were very patient with me and others involved as we asked questions about that, and they worked with that supplier. We even had some discrepancies in some of the stuff that came in. They were gracious enough to give us a credit back on some backpack hooks at Creekside. So I feel like that they part of it is customer service, definitely, because they're all kind of getting the same furniture. They have access to the same furniture. A little bit less in price, and then one thing I did add in there is a $10,000 owner contingency. If we do run into issues, which we happened at Creekside a little bit, a file cabinet here, some records cabinets, we can go and get those from Lone Star, and they can take care of that as a turnkey process too, if we choose to do that. Sometimes we'll just choose to go and get that ourselves because it's a smaller product, our process. So we put that in there as well.
All right. Questions?
I have a couple. What is the life expectancy of this equipment, and what warranty comes with it?
So the life expectancy really depends on, I mean, these are going to be used, I would almost say, I mean, you guys know the CTE Center. I don't know if this space is going to be used less than the others, but they're going to be back and forth in the labs, and we wanted some really durable stuff. The actual warranty, I can find out that information on these each specific item, but we chose based on the feel and durability of it. Lifespan, typically, I would go back to a classroom desk. Everybody is moving more towards tables and chairs now because they're more flexible. A desk can go pretty quick, but 20 years is typically what you would say is a lifespan of that. You can get them to last longer, and sometimes you can get them to they last less. But generally, I have to get back with you on the warranty information.
I'll say the good thing about our students in Montgomery ISD is desks and chairs last depending on how your kids treat the desks and chairs. If they're leaning back on the back end of it, that thing's gonna bow over pretty quickly. But I mean, as we walk our campuses now and our campus learning walks, you see even some of our old furniture that probably does need to be replaced in the next few years. It's still upkept very well, and so that's a testament to one, our expectations we have for our kids, and then two, them just doing right.
When do we have to take possession?
They'll work like possession of the equipment.
Yeah.
So right now they're running probably about 3 to 4 months out. Wanted to get this in now, so then we can have it procured, and then they can decide when the best time to build it and have it delivered. The set date right now is mid to early July to have that ready to go. At Creekside, we had to wait a little bit longer, but we're planning on, and we're on time, a little bit different situation at the CTE Center, to have it delivered and put in, and it's about a 2-week-long process in early July.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, I see we're just north of a 1.1 million. What was our budgeted amount for the furniture in the CT Center?
So the budget that I was given had all the FF&E in that entire project, and I think you guys are well aware of the amount of furniture, fixtures, and equipment that is in here. That total was around a little over $3 million, and so we're within budget of this for sure. We did move, and I'll go over this in the bond update too, about $500,000 of the furniture and fixtures and, not furniture, but fixtures and equipment for some of the lab spaces that are bolted down, anything bolted down over to Stewart's contingency, so it becomes or our contingency through Stewart, it becomes a contractor furnished, contractor installed item. And then we have, I'm getting the cost estimates of everything right now for the other things that we furnish. For example, the Cosmo Lab has a lot of owner-furnished, contractor-installed, and even owner-furnished, owner-installed items in it. It's a very unique classroom. All of them are very unique. And so this is just for the classroom furnish. We're within budget with this, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, if there are no other questions, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion for approval of purchase of over 50,000 for classroom furniture for the Career and Technology and Agricultural Facility as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. All those in favor? Aye. Abstain? Nays and abstain. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad, for the talks tonight. Information items. 7A, demographic report.
All right, so we engaged with Zion Education, and we've got Mr. Rocky Gardner here to present our latest demographic report. I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, Dr. Ruffin, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be in Montgomery. It's been 9 or 10 years since I've been out this way. It's a lot has changed. This demographic report is based on information that was collected and researched over the fall. So most of the fall, the last 3 or 4 weeks, our team talks to people, as many people as they can, developers, builders, local officials, and then they summarize that data, provide that to demographers, and we use that to build our projections. I could use this, right? Perfect. Starting out with just economic conditions, this is really this slide has looked very similar for many years in the Houston area. Unemployment rates are well below 5%, which most economists believe is a full economy. You know, when you're trying to fill up jobs, you want to know there's a little bit of a labor force. So this is also why we're seeing the growth, because we're seeing all this in-migration. So a lot of the jobs that we're getting, because our unemployment rate is so, are people that are moving this direction, which leads to, of course, one of the hottest housing markets in the country. Houston's the second fastest growing housing market in the country with about 38,000 starts, second only to Dallas-Fort Worth. And I think we have 5 areas in Dallas that are in that top 10. So strong housing market, strong housing demand, and that continues. We had a little bit of a hiccup a couple years ago as interest rates climbed. That purple line there are starts. So those are new home starts. That greenish line there, those are new home closings. Where those begin to separate was back when interest rates were starting to climb. So closings dropped off, some contracts even fell off, but they were still starting homes. So they stopped starting homes so they could sell off that inventory, and then you saw the starts dip below closings. Now they've converged again finally at around 38,000. I don't know if they're going to get back to that 43,000 again in Houston right now. But at least they're trending in the same direction. This is the Houston housing market, just looking at the trend over last year. Now, this is combined new homes and existing homes. Our overall sales are down slightly from last year, but you can see average prices, new home prices have gone up. But also what's gone up is the month's inventory. That month's inventory is now at 4.2 months, so that's about 130 days that these homes are on the market. We like to see that at 3 months or below. You know, back when it was really hot, we were doing 3 days sometimes. So it's definitely climbed up a little bit there, and that's again probably because of interest rates and some of the way things have been turning in the market. If we zoom right in on Montgomery, you can see here, this is ranked by school districts in the Houston area. Montgomery's got about 488 starts and 461 closings. That chart is ranked by closings because that's where we've got occupied homes, closings and occupied home. Inventory means that the home is under construction or finished but vacant. That VDL you see there is vacant developed lots. Those lots are ready to be built on right now. And of course, the future lots, these are areas that we know there's going to be development. In many cases, they haven't even moved dirt. In some cases, like you'll see in a few minutes, they're starting to move dirt. So that's like the next round of VDL, if you will. If we look at right here specifically the last few quarters, we're right now, we started 100 and I can read mine better than I can read that screen, sorry. I think it was 187. 187 starts, and that's a big start number. You can see that we haven't started 187 starts in Montgomery in quite some time, maybe even goes back further than you know what's on that chart there. But we did see a couple slow quarters before that, so you're probably going to finish the year with just over 400 starts. And then you're going to see your closings come in because that big start number, you'll probably get a pretty good closing number. You'll finish right around 550 probably for the year. These starts and closings trending pretty similar like that is kind of what we want to see. It matches up to the other chart that I showed. This is where we break that development down by elementary attendance zone. So the way to focus on this is really where you see colors, where you have the most activity. Creekside there is where you see all the yellow. That's where all the current activity is. 280 of your closings are right there. Your inventory is 115. I want to comment that the difference between inventory and under construction are finished but vacant homes. So that difference there, it's about 100 homes there. That means at the end of the third quarter, there were 100 homes that were finished but vacant. Chances are during this fourth quarter, especially now that we're almost at the end of the fourth quarter, many of those have closed, and that's what's going to show up on your fourth quarter inventory there. This is where development that we're tracking is located. We got 34 actively building subdivisions that ranging in sizes. Then all the yellow on there, that's your future development. So that's where we're going to have future subdivisions. The red outlines represent the next round of vacant developed lots. So those are future developments that are starting to break ground on lots. You can see there that they're breaking ground about 500 lots. They delivered 400 lots in the third quarter. So that lot development is important to keep some of these trends up, especially when we begin to increase, if we begin to see the possibility of some changes. One of so I've just don't worry, I haven't put all 34 slides in here. I only got 4 or 5, so brief. But the village at Lake Conroe, this is a kind of you can rent there, you can bring your own, or you can buy there. So this is kind of a new product that they're putting out there. It's almost full now. You'll probably yield some pretty substantial students there. That product usually does have a pretty high yield. It'll be much different than what's around it, of course. Much lower yields than there in those built-out communities that are getting close. Clopton Farms, this is another one where we've now begun seeing, you got 20 homes under construction. Pulte Homes, I think that's a Pulte home, Point Homes. 370s, so that's kind of the price point that we're seeing that's pretty common in Montgomery now. You've got Lone Star Landing, so you can see here in Lone Star, they're filling out they're building out what's in there, and in that other area out there you see, that's the new developed lots that are going to be coming online over the next 3 or 4 months. That student yield there of about 0.42. Where you see a student yield, that's the number of students per home. So I like to look at that as like 4 students for every 10 homes. Gives you an idea. And when we're forecasting, it's important for us to kind of understand that as well. This is another one. This is Montgomery Bend. You can see it down there. We've also got that. I wanted to add that Town Creek Crossing only because that arrow to the right shows Town Creek Crossing as if it's just getting started. But when I found the new October arrow, you can see that it's actually built out. But I didn't want anyone to be confused there. Montgomery Bend's got the 135 vacants, 19 under construction. That Pulte Home, that community will build fairly quick. And Montgomery Ridge, again, they've started building homes out here in Montgomery Ridge, 50 lots. So again, 21 under construction, we're looking in the 250s. So that's basically what we call the new affordable product, right? In that under 300, that's the new affordable, I guess you will. And Pine Lake Cove. Pine Lake Cove is kind of spread out there. The arrow on the left, that October arrow would be the part in the very top of Pine Lake Cove. We show all that other because we know there's a lot of future housing that will likely get built out that way, but that one on the left is where the development is going on right now. And Foster's Reserve, this is a couple of the futures we've talked about. We kind of estimate the lots on that because they don't really have a home site. You know, the builders, they like to do 100 homes a year, but they all want to do 100 homes a year. At some point, they kind of begin to kind of cannibalize off each other, if you will. So only a certain amount of absorption. You know, we may get to where Montgomery, 700 homes a year might be where it, you know, there's going to be a spot where it kind of tops out, and then you're going to see where that, you know, where each of those begins to play out. Lake Celestine, 1,000 single-family lots. You can see there that, you know, these are estate homes. They're going to be I'd say fairly expensive for my taste, $3 million to $5 million on some of those homes there. So that's not going to build real quick, but you'll certainly see a few students there eventually. It's going to be a little while. And then Redbird Meadow. Redbird Meadow's already, you know, they got groundwork underway, 200 homes. They haven't set a price yet, or they haven't provided that to us yet, but you're going to see you'll likely have home starts going on this coming spring there at Redbird. And Two-Step Farm, you can see where they've left some of the trees. That's always kind of nice to see so far. They broke ground, you know, with lot delivery scheduled for the first quarter of next year, 2025. So this is multiple builders and price points, but they're going to range from the high 300s. And now I'm going to transition to multifamily for just a second. Multifamily market right now sitting at about 88% occupancy in the Houston area. It's declined for a couple years now. These occupancy rates have been dropping. There's a bit of the challenge has been in the units that have been absorbed. Over 10,000 units are being added, so that's kind of spread out some of the challenges for apartment communities right now. They'd love to be up well over 90%. It's going to take a while for that to happen. We do have a couple products here that are being built right here in town. That's really small text. I'm sorry for that. You know, this is the one on the top right there is Lake Celestine Apartments. It's a larger mixed-use development, 400 to 500 units. We don't have any real details on that yet, other than we know it's coming. This homestead's zoned for mobile homes, manufactured housing, 150 homes. I think they'll start moving on this in 2025, I think. And once they move on those products, the mobile home product goes pretty quick. They just have to get the land there, and then they can start moving in homes. And then, of course, you've got this far left, it's closer to town, the 30 duplex units, so that's 60 homes. And then you've got the 98 units there just south of the road, and it's got, you know, they think they'll begin this month. So that's your apartment communities. This shows the yields of those apartments. The red, that 0.75, that's typically what we see in those manufactured housing or mobile home communities. And just so you know, the reason we count those as multifamily is because that's what the Census Bureau does, because it's multiple units on one tract of land. So that's why they're considered the multifamily there. Your other apartments are fairly low yielding, so your overall yield is like 0.07. So that's like 7 students for every 100 units. So we're not really yielding a lot of students from your multifamily. Moving on towards projections now, these are transfers. These are transfer patterns from last year. The TEA releases these, so this comes straight from TEA. So we won't get the 24, 25 transfer numbers until probably March or April. You can see that your incoming transfers dropped a little bit this year, but it stayed right around that between 400 and 500. And your transfers out increased just a little bit, but you're looking at 220 to 280 there. Keeping in mind that those aren't new transfers out. You know, some of those students may never have been, you know, you may never have had those. So it's not like you've lost those since last year or something like that. The TEA doesn't really provide a lot of context to that, but it definitely doesn't mean it's a year over year. Some of those students may not have been in the district.
And Rocky, I want to clarify something right there. When you say the word transfer, it's move in, move out, right?
Transfer means that they live in your district and go to school somewhere else.
Right, and so the transfer ends are they used to live in Anderson-Shiro District and now they live in Montgomery ISD.
They don't live here, no. The transfers in, they still live in Magnolia ISD, but they transfer, they go to school in your district.
Okay.
And it's the opposite, you know, if they still live in your district, but they might attend Conroe or Fort Stockton. I might note that Hallsville is on there. That's a virtual campus. That's up in East Texas. They're not commuting up there. There's actually a virtual campus up there.
Due to maybe their parent is a
Yeah, so
teacher,
we
employee
don't,
at the
like,
district?
when I heard transfer, I'm thinking of our limited open enrollment program. We don't have 490 limited open enrollment students, but if you factor in staff transfers because the parent works in or lives in, they actually live in Willis and their students go to school here, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So moving on towards projections, we start with kindergarten enrollment. Kindergarten enrollment has been, you know, trending down at public ISDs in Texas over the last few years. We've seen that trend drop. Your kindergarten enrollment right now, and what we've done with kindergarten is we look at district births. And the only way we can get district birth data is at the zip code level through the state. So we know zip codes don't perfectly make up the school district boundary, so we take a zip code. If the majority of the zip code is in your district, we count the births from that zip code. And then we look at kindergarten 5 years later, just to kind of get an idea of a correlation. It's not, we know it's not apples to apples. Many of your kindergarten students weren't living here when that child was born, but it does give us a nice correlation. You were well over 1, which means your capture rate, because of the new growth, you were gaining. You had more kindergarten students than births 5 years prior. Then we hit a little hiccup there where we dropped down to 99, then 96 this last year of that capture rate. We're forecasting that you're going to stay right in that 1-to-1 ratio that for births that we know. Now, we only have data through 2023, so obviously 2024 hasn't ended yet, but it did give us a good target when we were projecting the kindergarten enrollment. And you can see here that this is your current enrollment. This is where we started. We started looking this year with 9,894 students. That should be your snapshot number, the last Friday of October, and would show a growth of 72 students. That's about almost a 1% growth. The yellow areas there represent the largest class in 9th grade, and this is very common. One reason we show 2 is because every school district, it seems like the 9th grade is your largest class. It gets that combination of students that don't quite have enough credits to be sophomores, so they're kind of like freshmores, if you will. And then you got your 10th grade that's a little bit lower cohort, and typically those come together to give you a pretty smooth, that's usually a pretty common number there. And then you've got your 11th and 12th where we begin to see some drops. But those are the only grade levels where you're below 1. And basically you want to be the numbers I'm showing at the bottom are cohort growth. So if you think of that as how many first graders become second graders. So on this chart, for instance, that 591 became 631 from first to second grade this year, which was almost a 7% growth. So that's what we're looking at. That's what the housing's driving, that growth there going forward. So with that, and I might also comment before I turn, that 72 students that you guys grew, what sometimes gets lost here is that your 12th grade class is a couple hundred, like 200 students larger than your kindergarten class. So when you have 700 students leave and 500 come in, well, you lose 200 students just through that attrition. So when you saw although the district added 72 total students, you probably grew closer to 300 students in real growth. If you add first to second, second to third, fourth to fifth, that number in there. So you have to kind of keep that in mind as you look through this, because it can look a little different. I'm forecasting next year's enrollment to be 219 students bigger than where you are this year. Again, you'll be just over 10,100. That 219 also includes, it's really going to be closer to 400 student growth. So that's what I think you're going to, that's with that cohort change. We're forecasting that 219 students to be pretty solid, and I think you're going to begin to see some increases now. As your exiting classes kind of start to get similar to your entering classes, then your growth number becomes a little more, it looks more real than your cohort growth number. So it's very common. I think you'll be adding 500 to 600 students by the end of this 10-year period. It's sitting just over 13,000 students within 10 years. And I have campus level data here. I know that's a lot to look at. We highlight the areas where the campus, based on the capacities the district provides us. The yellow indicates that they've gone over their designated capacity. And Dr. Ruffin, I don't remember if that was, is that a functional capacity or is that a max capacity? I'm not sure I recall what we did there.
So Brendan, that came from y'all's facility assessment review. Do you know if what you list in that big old packet is functional capacity? Functional.
Great. Because that's always good to have that. You have a little room there. You know, you have a little wiggle room there. That's your campus numbers. The junior high, I guess, is the one that kind of jumps out at you. So with that, the third quarter new home starts, we're up 15% year over year. 34 actively building subdivisions, 13,000 future lots. We think you'll enroll over 11,500 students within 5 years and be over 13,000 within 10 years.
So Rocky,
Yes, sir.
talk stats to me. How sure are you of those numbers?
Well, I can tell you that our goal, any forecast, of course, gets the fuzzier the farther out you go because we don't know what the housing market's going to do. My target is 2%. I try to be better than 2%. So overall, which in this market, and then as we get away, as we see what the housing market does, that can change. I think we just entered in a biannual agreement this time, so we can come back this coming spring and see if that housing market shifted any, and we can look at it again, and sometimes we'll adjust them when we do that. Sometimes we don't if it stays on trend. I'm feeling pretty good about it. We actually, because we were new to Montgomery, we were here 9 years ago, I think, not 9 or 10 years ago, but we were new, so we had three different, Bob Templeton, my partner, myself, there about two or three of us kind of teamed up on this to try to kind of look at what's been going on. We looked back at what we did a long time ago to see if it had any relevance at all, and really it didn't, because it's so old that there's so much different housing now. But I'd like to think that that 10,200 is, would be that right in that range, that 10.1 to 10.2. It's all driven by kindergarten enrollment right now. If you can get them at the beginning, it's obvious what we've seen, that you guys are able to hold. You're adding 5 or 6% per grade level each year. But these kindergarten classes are so small that it's making some of the growth a challenge.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I was done. That was it. It's a good transition.
Okay.
That was a good
Board
transition.
members, questions? I think one thing that strikes me, as we did have some discussions earlier in executive session about land, is just looking at our areas of growth that you had in the yellow. So I think that's very helpful for us, and also the campuses where we're getting pretty close to functional capacity, if not already there.
Yeah, it's getting tight. It's going to get tight in about 2 or 3 years.
This really shows very, very moderate growth from what we've experienced the last 3 or 4 years, and what we were projecting and planning for and all the above. This is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum
from what you saw, like what you were projecting, or what you actually saw.
Actually both.
Well, based on our last demographic study, it's considerably
drastically
conservative.
I mean, the way we look at this too is we look at the number of homes that you've closed, and actually, it looks like you closed like 500 to 600 homes over the last couple years per year. A really reasonable yield would be 0.6. So if you think of that 60 times 5, that'd be about 300 students per year. That's actually a pretty high yield for this area. We don't usually see them quite that high. You are seeing some infill. We still can see some infill in some of these older developments where they've got some vacant lots still. We used year built this year to kind of dive into some of those more mature neighborhoods to see if they've been kind of infill in some of those. You're seeing about 60 to 65 homes of infill in some of those areas too. I didn't have a chance to look at the other projections, so I can't really comment on why they were certainly that high. That seems pretty, I think you'd have to be adding 1,500 homes a year to get to 700. You'd be having to add quite a few homes. I mean, and I don't think your history has proved that, that yield.
How interest rates, how much are they affecting the growth?
It's interesting because the interest rates, they dropped just a little bit, and we're still sitting pretty close to 7, yet we're getting back on trend with our starts and closings. So folks are finding a way to get into homes. Earlier this year, we thought they might drop a little bit by summertime. Now they're a little more skeptical. They're not sure it will drop that much. So right now, I think that's why I don't think that trend, I don't think we'll start seeing those overall homes builds in Houston get much over that 40,000 per year. I think they're going to kind of play it pretty close to the vest. You won't see as much. The good news, there's not a lot of finished vacant inventory, because that means they're not getting too far out in front of themselves. I'm in some districts where half of their inventory is finished vacant. And once that starts happening, then your builders are going to slow down. Plus your VDL is good, and that means that you could continue at the current pace for several years, even if they stop delivering new lots, which that's not happening. We're seeing about 500 lots per year. But I hope I can come back in the spring and I can say that we're still kind of trending forward and not seeing anything. There's headwinds, of course, that we heard y'all talk about, the vouchers, that, there's stuff that's going to happen. I just feel like districts like this, you might not see an impact on those vouchers. I just feel we're optimistic. I totally agree with everything I saw on that stuff. So I was nodding my head the whole time, especially when it comes to homeschooling. We think there's 20,000 more students homeschooling now than what there were 4 years ago.
Awesome.
Be glad that you're on the upside, because I think statewide we only added 12,000 students last year, and the year before that we added 90,000. And of that 12,000, charter schools added 18,000. So really statewide, Texas ISDs lost about 6,000 students last year.
Wow, that's
it's kind of crazy.
Pretty telling.
Yeah.
Questions? Rocky, thank you for this information. It's very helpful.
Appreciate you guys. Call me if you need anything. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And I'll say that as we have this report now, it's something that we plan on putting outward facing. So we'll have a link on our website and share the information that we have with our community also.
All right. Information item 7B, Goal 2 update.
All right, that's going to be Dr. Busby, and Chief Dory's going to come in and give us an update. Goal 2 is part of referring, when you hear Goal 2, Goal 1, Goal 3, Goal 4, that's referring to our strategic plan. And Goal 2 is focused solely on safety and security and student wellness.
Well, first of all, thank you for allowing us to be here. Dr. Ruffin, Mr. President, Board of Trustees. I'll do my best to get through this. But anyway, last month I was here. Amanda's here. I watched a little emoji run across the screen the whole day. There's no emoji in mine. Tonight we listened to the jazz band play, which was awesome. There's no music in mine. But I will tell you this, I would like to take an opportunity, first of all, to thank the board and this district for taking care of us. It was mentioned here earlier tonight that you made a business decision prior to House Bill 3 stating that we had to have officers on every campus. Y'all made that decision and y'all moved forward with that, and you've continued to support our agency, your agency, and I appreciate that. So we'll start hopefully with this. We're briefly going to go through discuss the police department's individual goals, updates, the department activities, and then basically talk a little bit about our plan 2 or goal 2 updates. We'll focus on safety and security, which is naturally one of our first goals, education, crime prevention, community involvement, and then training as well. Before I go into that, I would really like to recognize our officers, though. One of the things that we work really hard hard for is basically not only hiring but retention, hiring the best officer for your campuses and retaining those officers. So we not only listed the officers and the staff up here, I wanted to put their years of tenure because I do think that that's important. Pretty much the person that I lean on is Sergeant Kendall. I mean, she's vested in this community. She's vested in this district, this county. She is a truly asset. And I'm going to move to Officer Silvio. Officer Silvio is who Sergeant Kendall kind of leans on. He's not in the limelight near as much as Officer or Sergeant Kendall is, but he is the person that she kind of leans on when she needs assistance with operations. And then I have Rhonda. Rhonda is our administrative assistant. If you call the department, that's who you're going to get. That's who keeps me on task and me in line and the office running. Officer Lewis started his career here, and I think you should know that. That's the only officer that we have that started his career and has stayed with MISD. Romeo, I think, is a legend, not only in his own mind, but a legend to his campus. If I was to tell Mr. Stowe I was going to move him, I think they would move me. Edwards, this will be his 4th year here, and we talked a little bit about Silvio and his partner, Norris. Mr. Williams at Lake Creek would tell me the same thing. If you try to mess with my officers or take my officers and put them somewhere else, we need to have a discussion. Bruce Stewart is returning. He's at Montgomery High School. Craig Darlow is actually at Montgomery Junior High. And then we have Mike Hoagland, Oak Hills Junior High. Jennifer was a hire last year. She actually was at the high school. We were kind of bouncing back and forth because we started the year off one down with a new addition. She went to Stewart Creek and they fell in love with her over there and said, look, can we just keep her? And so she moved over there. Jason Hodges is at Lincoln. And then one of our new hires for this year is Shannon Pugh, who is actually at MRE. And then we have Carolina. If you haven't seen her, if you saw any of the pictures of Shop with a Cop or Blue Santa or In the Parade, she's the one that's dancing. So she's the one that's got the bubbly personality. And then the last hire we have is Gilbert Alba, who we just recently hired in November. But anyway, I am proud of this. We had one officer that left us last year and decided to go somewhere else. We had one new position that we filled this year. And then we had an officer, unexpected, but good for him. It's a good career move for him that left and took a job with another agency in Montgomery County, which opened up the window for us to bring Gilbert on. So one of the things that has really been beneficial for us, we have people that apply here, and we have the time, and we've taken the time to make sure that we get the right person. It's the culture, it's the environment. I'm not going to say, I'm not tying it to money or anything. I'm tying it to culture and environment and officers that are bringing their kids to the schools. So it's really been a big plus. Just some of our updates. Safety and security meetings, or actually it's this health, safety, security meetings with campus administrators at the beginning of 24-25 school year. This is something we do every year where we go over basically just our safety plans and a number of other safety related things with administrators. We worked on throughout the latter part of the summer up until we submitted our reports in October, which would be our emergency management plan, revise the basic emergency operations plan, severe weather, hazardous material, train derailment, annex, and then we added cybersecurity. That's one that Amanda and her crew worked on. They were submitted in October before our deadline. We're waiting on review and approval right now. Provided standard response protocol training, which is the active shooter training to basically all departments. We do this every year. And that basically is when we talk about the whole secure, lockdown, evacuate, and shelter in place. We go over My EOP app with administrators and staff to make sure that they have access to the My EOP app and understand how that works. We go over the RAVE app, the panic button app that we have to make sure that the faculty and then also the staff has access to that. And then we basically, one of the things we do at the elementary level is we read a book on how to be a superhero. This deals with lockdown situations on elementary campuses, and it's just an age-appropriate book that we go over with the elementary kids. Some of our, finishing up with that, we held safety and security meetings. Our first meeting was in June, second meeting was in October. We have a follow-up meeting coming in February of 2025. And just to talk a little bit about technology or new technology, and I really want to kind of touch on this, and I'm going to just call it kind of a rebranding of the police department. When I came here, one of the first phone calls I got from Dr. Ruffin when he walked in the door, he says, "Have you looked at your fleet?" And I said, "Matter of fact, I have, and I said, "But, times are tough, money's tight." And I said, "But I got a plan. I've got a connection." And, the board, the superintendent, we moved forward with purchasing vehicles from another agency. We were able to repaint those, restripe those. We've changed pretty much probably 75% of our fleet from black and white to white and blue stripes. And I just think it gives a better approach, a better look at our schools. But when I talk about rebranding, I talk about the uniforms that we wear now. We're more consistent in what we're wearing. Outer vest carriers, trying to provide the tools and the equipment that the officers need. And that's basically from support that y'all have given us. Made a decision on, what style of hat we were going to wear, which is more of a Western style hat for summers and then for, more of a felt hat for winter, just to really professionalize the uniform and standardize the whole process. Some of the training, one of the things that I've always been really big on and I think is critical in this environment is training your officers. And that's hard to do sometimes. When our officers are assigned to campuses and they come to work, they go to that campus, they leave that campus and they go home. So finding time to do that sometimes can be a little difficult. So every day that the teachers are off for their teachers' work days, that's a training day for us. It's a mandatory training day for us. And then we utilize our time in the summer, the week or two before school or after school for our updated training, things like that. The alert training is mandated. Everybody has to go through at least level one at least one time. We go through alert training every year. That's usually a 2-day class. We bring in DPS, and DPS walks us through that. We'll go over report writing, policy review. We have a policy manual that we pay for, which is called Lexipol. It's an automatic self-updating policy manual. What it offers us the ability to do is send out what's called daily training bulletins. And so you send daily training bulletins out to the officers, and they have 30 questions or so per month that they have to respond to on your policy. So it kind of keeps you refreshed and up to date on your policies. Narcan, provide Narcan training just to make sure that our officers understand how it works and that it's accessible to us. We partner with Montgomery County Attorney's Office for our juvenile updates that come out once a year, but they're really accessible anytime we need to make a phone call. We partner with DPS and FBI. They have a threat assessment task force right now. They provide training on, or provided a training class on swatting calls. And if you don't know what a swatting call is, it's like when somebody makes a phone call and it's through like an app-based phone or something like that, or they're spoofing somebody else's number, and then you have a resource that you can work through to help solve those cases. Participated in Countywide hazmat trained derailment tabletop exercise held by Montgomery County. Attended Montgomery County District Attorney's School Safety Summit. This is something that Brett Leggett put together this year that they had not done before, and they invited all the ISDs to attend. It was in September or something like that, but it was really good. He brought in all his ADAs and then him and county attorney and DPS. So we attended that, and then the reason for assessment training, the FBI task force. Basically, they give us the ability to partner with them. It's called like a TFO, where you go through their background process, and then you have access to their information, and they can do things in a very timely period where it would take us hours to do or longer to get subpoenas and things like that. So we partner with them on that. Some of the specialized training for command staff, LEMIT, Chief Leadership. I attended my second phase of that, which is mandated by law. You have to attend 2 phases within your first couple of years. Sergeant Kendall, LEMIT Command Leadership Staff, because I really think it's important to develop your staff as well. Officer Romeo is our training officer. Sent him to a TCOL training conference just so to update him on what's required and how to make sure that our records are in order and things like that. School-based law enforcement training command staff, that's coming up. That's just a new class that they came out with for school-based law enforcement. It's at the command staff level. So we have Sergeant Kendall and Officer Silvio going to that. The Houston Threat Assessment Team, we were a member of that. Our officer that left and went to another agency took that membership with him, basically. So we're refilling those positions right now. One of the programs that we're going to initiate after the first of the year, I don't know if any of y'all have heard of the RAD program, Rape Aggression Defense. It's where you take your staff, your officers, and you teach defensive tactics to students, primarily female students in high school and things like that. It's a nationwide program. Several of the agencies around us do that, but we'll send an officer to be an instructor in that. The School Safety Conference, myself and Rhonda attended that. Working on developing a detective within the department that can handle specialized and extended type cases. Sent that officer through sexual assault, family violence certification course, background course, and then he also completed his police chaplain certification program. So those are some of the things some of the training that we've got out of the way, or that we've really been involved in since probably June. And to me, that's a pretty extensive record for the amount of time that we have. So it looks like I get to pass the torch.
Don't go far. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I feel safer already hearing how prepared our police department is. And they do a great job contributing to this next part we're talking about, our strategic plan. Goal 2 is all about safety, and MISD will vigorously enforce policies and procedures that promote a safe and orderly environment. So Chief and his department contribute to this. My department, Courtney Dyer, will be sharing some of the activities that we are doing as we make progress in this goal. Performance Objective 1 has to do with training, and you just heard about a whole lot of the training that was going on. We will provide a safe and orderly learning environment and rigorously enforce all safety and security by providing training to staff and to students. And I think you were actually back up, Chief, to tell us a little bit about some of those training opportunities.
Let me see that.
Wasn't much of a break.
I didn't even get to rest.
I just wanted to talk for a minute.
Okay, all employees will participate in annual required training, including active shooter review of district safety plan and safety drills. We talked about that a little bit earlier. We do that at the beginning of the school year, but not only at the beginning of the school year. If you have substitute teachers, new teachers come in, Sergeant Kendall, and that's why her initials are below that. Sergeant Kendall pretty much takes care of all that training. Anytime we have new subs, anytime we have new teachers, There'll be a classroom set up, usually in 501. She'll go through there, walk them through all the training from rave training to, basically our drills and.
Great graphics if you hit the next.
Oh, do we have some graphics? Oh, drill accountability, okay. So when we talk about drill accountability, this is basically with our administrative staff where we have a process that when they complete their drills, are listed in a format that we have to turn into the state. They have to do X amount of fire drills, hazmat drill, different things like that. Rave is the app that we all carry on our phone. It's a panic button app. It allows us to contact either police, fire, EMS, whatever it might be by pushing a button. And standard response protocol, we talked about this a little bit earlier. This is either, hold, secure, evacuate, those are the standard response protocols. But anyway, we make sure that we teach that to everybody as well. And then MyOP app, we went over that as well. That's again, is a cellular-based app that's on your phone that has all the district information in it, all the administrators' information in it. It has basically our maps and different things like that if we have an emergency situation. And then How to Be a Superhero, again, that's the book that we read, and how to be a superhero to the kids. I don't have to go. I think I have one more.
So part of safety is not just physical safety, but online safety as well. So this was part that was added to our strategic plan. We do have cybersecurity training that all staff take. If they use a computer, they are required to take that. We are up to 85% as of December, so they'll continue to work through that and get that up to 100%. We also do phishing tests, and I know technology talked about that a little bit before, and so that's where we send out those emails, those fake emails to try to see who's going to take the bait and who's going to click on what they're not supposed to click on and who's going to actually report it. So we're working on that kind of response and getting more people to report those rather than click on the fishy links. And then, as he mentioned, we have the cybersecurity annex that was added to the EOP as well. Okay, performance objective 2 with safety. This is implementing best practices which will result in students, parents, and staff experiencing a safe and secure environment. And so a couple of activities that we do to encourage that. Some of those are by our police department. And so these are just a couple of those examples. They've done Coffee with a Cop. They've had the Montgomery Christmas Parade. Actually, the leadership group that they did actually got to participate in the parade, so that was a lot of fun. They participated in the Faith in Blue event along with our Montgomery and area police officers, and then Blue Santa. Chief, I think that might be you in that picture right there, right? Looking good in some tights.
It looked kind of like a mean elf to me, but yeah.
And then that Leadership Academy up in the top right, that's where our students get involved on our campuses and work with our campus police officers to just learn more there. And so I don't know, is there anything else you want to add about the Student Leadership Academy?
Other than this is something we talked about bringing back. At one point in time, the Leadership Academy was here. And I worked well with Courtney on scheduling meetings with the counselors, because it is a counselor officer-based program. It's a program where you pull 10 to 15 students out of your elementary campuses, and you're looking for not a fifth grader, maybe a fourth grader or something like that you can develop into a leader. So next year they'll be a fifth grader and they can carry some of those skills over with that. But it's just it's about a 45-minute program once a week that the officers meet with. And it's just, they're asking questions that are basically pertain to decision-making, confidence building, consequences, and having an open group discussion and sharing. And the officers part of that, the counselors part of that as well. But if you saw the parade, we had 32 of our kids come out. It was raining, it was nasty, and one of the moms probably said it best. She said, "You know what? You can't plan for it. It's kind of like camping. You either go or you don't go." And she said, "I'm not worried about it." And as God would have it, it quit raining when the parade started. At 10 o'clock, it quit. The kids had a good time, and I mean, that's what it was about, so.
So one great example of us building those relationships between our students and our officers, I'll keep talking on this part. So we also are continuing on the Stop the Prop. That initiative has not lessened. We want to continue to keep our buildings secure with that. We also have our see something, say something. We updated our posters this year. We have quick tips where they can do that anonymous reporting on campuses. And then we'll turn it over to Ms. Dyer to talk a little bit about watchdogs.
Thank you. All right. Well, just as we wrap up Objective 2, I wanted to touch base a little bit, an update on watchdogs. So as you probably know, it was brought to our district in 2011, has been up and going strong since then. It stands for Dads of Great Students, and we have lots of dads and father figures that are on our campuses serving in a positive role model capacity, as well as a little extra eyes and ears on campuses to help with that safety and security piece. They collaborate with our campus officers to maybe help check exterior doors, as well as just being in those high traffic areas, just looking for ways that can help improve that safety and security piece on our campuses. So we had our kickoff event in the fall in September, and I'm proud to announce counselors have given us a total of, we've had 150 watchdogs this fall who have participated on campuses, and that's amazing. They have that many plus a few more already scheduled for the spring and are in the works of getting more scheduled as we speak. So if anyone asks about how they become a watchdog, they can reach out to that campus counselor and they'll be happy to get them squared away. All right, Performance Objective 3. So this centers around student wellness. MISD will implement best practices relating to mental health awareness training, trauma-informed training, character education, and mentor programs. So mental health was mentioned multiple times tonight, and one of our initiatives within this objective is to train our staff in the area of mental health so that we can best support our students. And as you have probably seen, there's been some recent rulings from our commissioner about mental health training, stating that school districts shall require each district employee who meets and interacts with students on a regular basis to complete an evidence-based mental health training program. And so it's not an initiative that a requirement that has to be done this school year, but it is something that has to be met over time within the next 4 school years. And so just to give an example, like for this next upcoming school year, 25% of our staff who interact with students on a regular basis have to be trained. And then with the end goal being 100% of those staff members being trained by the start of the 2028-29 school year. And so we went ahead and kind of got started with that this summer. And so we were able to train close to 200 staff members during our back-to-school PD. Kind of got a jump start there. We chose to use a youth mental health first aid training program. It's a program that's actually recommended by TEA because it meets that checkpoint of being evidence-based. We also reached out to Region 6. They also recommended this as being one of the programs that they recommended as well. Great news, it's a very thorough program. I've been had that training. It's a 6-hour training, and it's free. So that's kind of icing on the cake. So to get something that's free and also quality is a win for sure. So our plan, we're going to be on track to meet that first expectation for this next school year. We'll do continuous training this summer, throughout the summer, as well as our back-to-school PD, so that we make sure we meet that 100% within the next few school years. All right, just a little update on our mentor program. As you know, this program allows us to connect community members along with our students on campus that may need a positive role model or maybe a caring adult in their life. So we currently have 60+ mentors on our campuses, with several ready to start after the holidays. And then we also have some upcoming mentor trainings already scheduled on the books for after the break. So January 14th as well as February 11th, right here at the ESC. But of course, if you know of someone who can't make it but's interested, I will always sit and visit with them and train them one-on-one. All right, so after the break, we're excited to be hosting the MISD Employee Health and Wellness Fair. This was an event we were able to bring back last year, post-COVID. Very well attended, lots of positive feedback. So go ahead and mark your calendars for February 17th. That's actually a Monday, a campus PD day. It'll be open to all MISD employees. We'll have over 30 vendors there from the community to provide resources in the area of wellness and health. We'll have our student groups there again. That's always popular. They'll be there checking vitals and providing support to our staff members. And then we'll have the blood bank will be there to do blood donations. We had about 35 employees give blood last year, and so they went back to our community. And then, of course, door prizes to make it fun for participation from our vendors that'll be given out to our employees. So be on the lookout for more information coming your way after we get back from break. And then last but not least, we'd just like to give you a quick update on the Resource Center. We were here about a month ago. We were able to open our doors, and very happy to announce since then, we've been able to help probably 30 families since Thanksgiving break, and I have 10 on the books to come shop before the break. So couldn't do it again without the donations of our community and our partnerships with the campuses. And if you know of anyone that needs to shop, feel free to send them my way. If anybody wants to donate or volunteer, I'm happy to help them as well. So Dr. Busby is going to share a quick update with Performance Objective 4.
Okay. All right, so this was a new objective this year on student expectations. A lot of the feedback that we got as we were going through our groups and as Dr. Ruffin was doing his tours was just having that consistent student expectations and working on behavior side of things. So MISD will implement positive classroom management strategies, a multi-tiered system of support to respond to students' social, emotional, and behavioral needs. So some of the things that we have started working on in this area is one of the things that y'all are a part of and saw at the beginning of the year. We implemented the cell phone policy. Having that consistent policy across the district really helps our campus being able to enforce expectations when we have that consistency. We've also been working on MTSS behavior. You can see the triangles, the triangle on the side there where it talks about the different tiered levels. Level 1 means, tier 1 means we do this for all students across the board. Your tier 2 is your more targeted interventions, and then your tier 3 is your really individualized and more intensive interventions that you might have to do for a student. And so this is the work we've been working on, and we've been starting with that tier 1. Do we have common, consistent expectations across our campus? And do we have common processes on how to address those behaviors? And then from beyond that, then we continue then to work on behavior intervention strategies past that. Also, the campuses have been working on being consistent with their discipline practices across the campuses as well. Connectedness was a big part that we heard, is that students who feel connected and feel a part of the school are more successful. And so what activities can we do to keep them connected? So we're looking, over the next few years, we're going to be continuing to find what are those opportunities, how we can get students involved. One of the things that we have started with this year, Dr. Ruffin has his superintendent leadership group. He has allowed Ms. Fitzpatrick and myself to be involved with that as well. And these students have been great about brainstorming, hey, what are some ideas of some things that we can do? And they actually came up with, they didn't use the word connectedness, but that is what they came up with, was what's the need on our campus? And how do we make kids feel a part of MISD, a part of that school culture. And so they are actually working on that right now and brainstorming ways of what can they do on their campus. And then we're allowing them to flesh out that idea and implement that idea on the campus level. Another idea that has come out of that group is student ambassadors, where they would create a system where when newcomers come, that they would give those students tours, make them feel welcome, and make them just be a part of and integrate into Montgomery ISD. Teacher training is another big part of this objective. We have started working where each campus has a core team where they work on those positive behavior interventions and supports. This is that whole part of how do you become consistent? Well, you have to work together, you build that team, and you start developing what our expectations are on our campus. How are we going to approach things? So we have a core team on each campus, and then they work with our district team to start developing those things. We're really focusing on those tier 1 best practices first. focusing on behavior prevention. If we can prevent the behavior from happening, we're all going to be much happier. And so that's the first focus. And then after that, what do you do next? And so then we got to train on what behavior interventions you put in place when those strategies don't work. We also have developed a feedback system on these trainings so that when we finish the training, we can see how effective was this training and what do we need to do next so that it's relevant to the needs of those who are attending. And so that's kind of where we are on our activities for Goal 2. So questions for any of the three of us?
Board members, any questions? I think that's a testament to all the great work that y'all doing. Chief, Dr. Busby, Ms. Dyer, thank y'all so much for that update. All right, moving on, we will go to information item 7C, bond update.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mansfield, they took all your time. I'm kidding. Come on up.
All right, good evening again. Wanted to let you know that before we get started here, around slide 72, we will have an intermission. Huckabee provided some snacks in the back here. So as you approach, I'll let you know when we get close to that particular slide. So, all right, we got it pulled up. Real quick, I wanted to follow up. One of the things, if you guys ask me a question, I don't know the name of it. I think you know me well enough to know I'm going to try to find the answer. About the furniture, I did find out real quick about Lone Star, and what I love about Lone Star. Huckabee was part of this too, because Lynn from Huckabee got some information. On the actual chairs, or on the classroom tables, it's 10 years at least, and it's KI tables, and that's a brand name that's at least 10 years on those. It's 10 to 15 for the admin furniture for warranty, and then for the student chairs, it's a 12-year warranty with a lifetime on the base. What that means is, I don't know if the top part wears out, we can somehow sit on the base, but it is a lifetime on the base. And 20 years is about the lifespan of it. But within that time frame, if something does go wrong, we can give them a call and they can switch it out during that time. So I wanted to catch back up on that. So, all right. So Bond 2022 update. Before we get started, I think it's always something that about why it's so great to work here. I'm so thankful to work here. Is it's a team atmosphere. I wanted to recognize some people who are on the ground every day in the trenches doing the work. David Crow and Joe Keinert are back here, and they are in buildings, they are in rooms, they're meeting with contractors, they're at OACs with me, they're supporting the vision of this bond every day. The other set of partners through that are our contractors and architects, and Huckabee being here tonight, it's a team effort, and we work together to do that. So I wanted to make sure that those guys are recognized and how appreciative I am of them. So it's a little bit different format on this. It's really not that many slides, so I was just joking. I don't know if y'all got that, but one of the things I have on my folder for board meetings is I have the commitments that this bond that I walked into was that we promised the community and what they voted for. So in that are really 13 different subsections, 11 of them within Prop A, and then Prop B and Prop C. And so Prop A, when we talk about Prop A tonight, it is not the Vader. This is bond related, but it is still called Prop A for that. So those are the commitments on there. And in the categories in Prop A, which is a majority of the money, $312 million, you can see some of the things up there. Where you'll see $75 million is in the campus upgrades. That's a whole lot of the packages for the renovations and other things. That's one of the largest pieces of that. And then the CTE Center, Creekside, and Lake Creek Addition are other big ones that are in there. And then Prop B, specific to the stadium, very restrictive of what we can use. And that's the inside the fence money, as you'll hear it referred to. And then Prop C is the devices. So a status update on everything there. I think you can see that right there. We're moving right along. Creekside and Lake Creek, we'll get into in a second, is moving along, and we're pretty much done with that, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. But I'll have each one of these bar graphs on each one of the slides too. So I wanted to give you a general overview about money spent. This is not monies encumbered. This is money spent as of November 2014. We have spent of the $326 million, 188. That is money going out of the bond program. So that pie right there will continue to shrink as we start paying people and we start securing more and more and finishing up projects. One of the things that Dr. Ruffin pointed out today through this is if you look at the end date of a lot of these things up there, it's this summer. So the bond is kind of coming, a big portion of the bond's coming to the end, the big projects. So that's exciting. There's going to be a lot of stuff that we'll be able to put our hands on at the end of all this. Creekside, quick update on that. I wanted to add in each one of these slides for the bond updates also the GMP for the projects where it's applicable. That is out of Prop A, and that is only construction. That's just for them. That does not include Huckabee's soft cost or the architect's soft cost. I just wanted to put the GMP up for that. That's obviously the majority of the money. Everything, we're under budget, on time with that. We have some contingency left. We paid for the road. We'll have that removed, the temporary road that was there. That was out of contingency. That's going to get removed over the holidays, the rock that's left in there. The final punch list item right now that we're really focused on, big punch list thing. They've taken care of all the other things. It's shrunk down from probably a 30-page spreadsheet down to about 2 pages for that punch is the terrazzo. The terrazzo is a large item. That we feel like at this point in time still needs some work, and we are working with Pogue Construction, us and Huckabee, to come up with next steps with that. So that is probably the biggest outstanding item on the punch list right there, but we're going to get that resolved pretty soon. Lake Creek Addition, on time, under budget. We're pretty much wrapped up there. That project has gone pretty smooth. The flooring in there is great. We had some stair treads that we updated in there, and everything else is punched out. We've got some appliances we finally had delivered to the science lab rooms, and then we have one outstanding issue with some gas access in the upstairs area for some of the science labs. So that punch list is moving along pretty quickly too. CT and Ag, I know a lot of you guys have just come back from that tour. That is our biggest project in this bond, I believe. I mean, if you think about individual projects, it's an unbelievable building. It's been a pleasure to be a part of that and walk in on that design. It's my son's a robotics kid, and so looking at that arena gives me chills. And he raised a lamb. And so I tried to stay away from that process. I wasn't very good at that part of it, but the robotics piece, it's just an unbelievable to see the thought that went into that. But back to it, that's in the Prop A as well. The GMP's up there, on time, tracking within the budget. It's hard to say we're completely under budget with that right now because we're far enough along, but it was priced out under budget. And I think we're gonna land in that same area too. FF&E, and if you guys don't know what FF&E is, and I'm sorry if I do use acronyms sometimes, and maybe you don't know what they are, that's furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And what that boils down to is sometimes it's classroom furniture. In this specific case, it's more equipment. So we had some conversations early on, and how it was originally set out was that it was going to be a whole lot of owner-furnished, owner-installed, or owner-furnished, contractor-installed. So that meant that we had to coordinate with Stuart, and it would be Amy and I, stay on top of timelines when this stuff was going to be sent. Amy's trying to run an entire department as well. Ms. Vance, myself's doing that too. So we thought it would be a good use of resources to just move that money from the FF&E budget from that into Stuart to manage that process. How we determined what was going to go on that was conversations with Huckabee, Stuart, and ourselves, and basically the criteria is anything that's bolted down. And the reason why is the contractor knows the time frame of when they need to order that. They can get that ordered in time. They can get it procured in time. They can get that to where they know, and I'll give you an example. We just got our first submittal, and it was pretty cool to see, but it was the automotive lift. That was going to go in there, that's going to go in the auto shop. So you see this truck, it's a colorful picture, and the truck's jacked up on it. That's the lift we're ordering. And so they know when they're ready to receive that and put it in the building with things that are bolted down. Things that aren't bolted down, a little bit more flexibility. We can store those, we can bring them in. There's less lead time on a lot of those, so those were left to us. We still have a big list to accomplish. These rooms are very unique, which is the purpose of it, right? I mean, it's not your standard high school. This is a space where kids are learning trades and life skills and all these things. So it's going to have some unique, fun furniture. There's an ambulance, the back of an ambulance in one of the rooms. And I can't wait to see that. And that's just amazing that we offer that for our kids here. It's going to be a great building. So we moved that over. It was a little over $500,000 to move that over, and that's not adding money to the budget. That's just shifting it from our FF&E budget into Stewart's hands. There is a small percentage charge that they do to do that work that is well worth it. So that was a change order that we put through with that. It's not going to affect at this time any coming back to y'all for a change in the GMP. We think we can stay within the contingency money, but there is a possibility if some unforeseen things happen within this project, which knock on wood it doesn't, then we may have to extend the GMP, but not likely. I hate to show you all pictures of the CTE building, but I would also love to show you pictures. I know a lot of y'all just saw all this stuff, but if you didn't get a chance to see it, here's the outside looking front from the construction trailer. To the left, my left, so if you're looking out along those windows, that's Lone Star Parkway over there, and that is also the shelled out area for the potential office space up there too, and classroom space in the future. Here's the ag barns, and you have the, I guess, lack of a better word, the Lake Creek, Montgomery, and then in the middle is a show arena as well. And then they haven't started putting up the walls for the other part yet. They're moving pretty quickly on that, but you can really start to see shape, especially if you're coming up 1097, turning on to Buffalo Springs. You can see that thing. It's just growing each and every day. What we're kind of looking at right here is a sloped area that's going to go down from the main CTE building down to the ag building, and you'll see if you're on site like a little switchback area. We're probably going to add some stairs to that because we feel like kids are probably going to cut those corners. We had to put the switchback in there because of ADA, but we want to go ahead and add stairs so kids can go back and forth easier and won't tranche through the mud. Here's another picture of, this is actually the automotive area. Is this the automotive area? Yes. And the bays are actually, you can kind of see the bays eventually now, I think. But if you notice behind, I think that's Hector and Amy right there. But those windows are theme all the way through where you can be in the hallway looking in to see what's going on in those classrooms. Here's the automotive bays as well, again. I picked this picture just because I just said it's very, I have a soft spot in my heart for that program, and to have an arena and going to robotics competitions when you're trying to share space looking through a window with every other parent and they're knocking you over. I'm like a tall guy and I'm trying to get in the back and I can see over them. To be able to sit on top of this and look down at the arena and then have bleachers is going to be an unbelievable experience for our kids. Wanted to give you all some drawings that Huckabee had come up with to kind of give you, this is what it's going to look like when it's all said and done, in a graphic, but this is the commons area, and you guys know that stairwell. I think you guys all saw it. The flooring in there is a beautiful terrazzo flooring, and then you can see the finishes and fixtures and how they look, and even a shot of what the furniture will look like in there. And then this is the bistro area right there in the front. Another quick shot of that. I can't wait to have Brendan serve our first meal there. So he's agreed to that. Any questions about CTE? I know that's a big project. So, okay, moving along, the Montgomery High School renovation. Stewart Builders, PBK, is the architect on that, and that's the GMP for that. As again, is Prop A. That comes out of that big chunk of campus improvements, $75 million. Some of the big things that are happening over the summer, right now we're doing some smaller projects. One of the things you may or may not have heard about is we've done a lot of auditorium review and found some things that probably process-wise we need to do differently in the district to make sure we're maintaining those spaces. I don't know if you know what a diva shell is. A diva shell is basically what you put up behind a choir so that it kind of pushes the sound out. Ours needed a lot of work, and our instructors were struggling with putting that up. We had a contractor come out within the scope of the work, look at it. offer up some advice. David did a lot of work on that behind the scenes of meeting with this person. They reviewed the audio, visual portions. We're going to be putting a new projector in there as well to try to make it, a upgraded facility. It's already a great space, but to kind of give those upgrades in there. Choir room, shelving, and library. If you look at comparability-wise between the two schools, Lake Creek and Montgomery High School, they really didn't have a choir library. So we got some feedback from the choir teacher, and PBK put together some drawings. Stuart put together a package, and we're going to get some new cabinetry and some flat spaces in there to store the material for them to use that library, and it can be a usable space for kids. And then some shelving in there. So right now, it's basically kind of pieced together IKEA shelving that she had used for kids to put backpack and stuff in. We ordered her some quality shelving as part of that to give her some comparable with the other campuses as well, give her some material for the kids to put their stuff. So, and those fine arts programs over there are going to get some definite upgrades to that. Band instruments was a question that something that I know was in the works before I got here. Right now we have one quote in to get some new band upgrade or some band equipment. And I met with Mr. Cameron this summer, and then again now he's waiting on some other quotes for those. We're gonna have a total of 3 quotes. We'll bring that to you guys. It may or we may whittle it down a little bit to see if it's a phase in or whatever of the amount that are in there. But some of this equipment we actually rent out to kids through the year that maybe they can't afford an upfront purchase. Some of the concert equipment is not equipment that's going to go outside. It's a lot of concert equipment that typically you wouldn't buy as you wouldn't make a student buy a specific concert like bass clarinet. They're very, very expensive. So we have some here. Ours are pretty outdated. Old. Lake Creek got brand new when they opened, so we're trying to get them up to comparability on that. The plan is with the other stuff is to waterfall it down to the junior highs and get them some additional equipment as well. Or if we don't waterfall it, we would put them up for auction and try to sell those for the equipment. So we'll be bringing that to you. Dr. Ruffin and I will review it in the future. Transportation Fuel Center, you've seen some work going on over there. I didn't know what all was back there when they knocked all that grass. There's a big parking lot. It's going to be big. And so they are, it's 3 phases. Phase 1 is what they're working on right now. And that's basically where they're doing all that dirt work and then some ditches and retaining ponds. I call them more of retaining ditches than ponds. They're 2 linear ponds, ditches that are going to take the water that's required by code to have in there. They're doing that work. They're digging those out. They degrubbed. They're putting in a lot of underground utilities right now. Early February, the first phase of concrete hopefully will be done. So that phase 1, we can start shifting buses. So it's almost like a little dance we're doing. We're shifting buses from this area, moving them to this area, moving to this area as we start to complete that project. So we never have to stop transportation. We got to still transport kids. Eric and his team have worked hard to make it work. It's been changes for them. We move people to Lone Star that aren't used to being Lone Star, but they know at the end of the day they're going to have a nicer facility and they're going to have a nice concrete pad to park their buses on. Trending is about September 22nd for substantial completion, but again, it doesn't impact the functioning of getting kids to and from school. So we're looking at around September 22nd. I wouldn't say we're behind schedule. We started out a little bit behind on this with some of the submittals and pricing, but we're catching back up now. And the top parking area is scheduled to be everything up front is scheduled for August, so that'll all be done and they'll start working down there. Last thing will be they'll dig up that fuel cell or that fuel pod. Here's some of the work, some pictures of the work that's been done out there. There's the ditches. Renovations to the triplets, Division 1, Huckabee is the architect on that, and then you can see the GMP working on submittals right now. It's a pretty boring update on that, not a whole lot to it, but there is. It's a little bit exciting to me because we'll start some of that exterior work and getting the fencing upgraded around those campuses. Some of that fencing, especially around Madeley Ranch, is 4 feet tall. We're going to put that up to a taller height to keep people in that should be kept in and the people out that should be kept out. Not that kids were jumping fences or anything, but they're all going to get some fencing upgrades. We're going to start that around March, I think, is when that time is set to happen. And there'll be some after-hours work done in the ceilings that won't impact the school. And then it'll get really fast and heavy when it starts, when summer hits, right when all the teachers are leaving. Security film, not to go into a whole lot of detail about that, just so you know, that is safety and security grant money. It was originally going to be bond, but we need to spend that money from that safety and security grant, or it basically goes away. So we moved that over. That was $533,000. We're behind schedule on that. They overestimated the work, or underestimated the work, and overestimated their commitment from trades. A little bit had to do with barrel and supply, but not a significant amount, but they're catching up. We're down to about, if you look right there, 75% done. And the details on that, we don't want to publicly put out there, but there's basically 3 phases to the whole project. One of them is the film, and you'll see the 10 on there, and then there is a wet glaze that if you walk into a campus on the exterior door, you'll see a thick, thick bead of caulk. That is when you know it's pretty much done. Lake Creek was one of the first ones started. That is the one that has taken about 3 months, and we've finished it. So that's a big step. I'm going to tear up, I think, a little bit, because Lake Creek was a pain in my rear end to get that done. So we're looking at late January, late February, or February for the last of them on those. And we can, Dr. Ruffin can probably fill you in on the details if you have questions about what specific campus. Just didn't want to put it out here in open session.
I have one question on that real quick.
Yes, sir.
The CTE facility, will that already be on there when we open the CTE facility?
This is part of the scope. Just Creekside, it was part of the scope of the contractor. It is part of the scope. They have our district standard for both door numbering. Huckabee put up drawings. I wanted drawings for our door numbering, like this is the size of it, reflective tape or reflective numbering, both inside and outside. So if you're inside, you're a firefighter, your flashlight's going to hit that door numbering. It's going to shine. They put together a district standard for us, so we can provide that to all contractors now. And then the district standard for security film was given to Stewart.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Athletic complex. If you've been out there, we did get to host Winter Wonderland. Our transportation department, if you see them, pat them on the back. They do that every year. They run those buses for that Winter Wonderland and take lots of people in and out. I think the weather kept some people away this year. Wasn't as cold, I guess, and it was a little bit rainy. But that's down there at the Fellowship Church. We got some stuff out of the way so they could have that whole front parking lot. I think next year they'll have both parking lots, and they're probably going to need them if they want to use that facility during that time for the same process. This is both Prop B and A, and if you guys remember, Prop B is very specific on what we can do, and we're locked in on a certain amount on that, and we're going to stay under budget with that. And then the other part is taken out of Prop A. Site work's underway. They're rocking and rolling. I mean, they're putting utilities in. They're digging up. Don't go stand out there because you'll be in the way. They're moving. They've already started to dig up behind the bleachers on the current visitor side, soon to be home side. They've got some in the field house. They're about 5% done with the whole project, but in the field house renovation piece, they're about 15% done. I got that number last Thursday from Jay and Stewart. I'd probably say they're almost to 20% now. They're moving and getting that thing done. They had to shut the power off for a little bit to get the utilities run. They're going to start on flooring. They're going to start on finishes. They're going to start on paint. And then we're all good with permitting, so it'll probably be a little bit later into the school year where you start seeing the field house going in, the new addition to the field house going in. They're starting some site work with that as well. They're removing fencing, and then another exciting part is that the nets are going up at both softball and baseball. The poles are up, and we're waiting on the nets to be weaved, sewn, and those will be coming right after Christmas break. Additionally, I know this was, I was given the whole backstory on this thing, but the mound at MHS was a little bit lower. I'm a former pitcher, and Mark was this too. We went out there and looked at it. I needed all the help I could get with angle. So when I saw that mound, it was definitely lower. A lot of backstory work, collaboration with PBK and the contractor, Hellas in this. Finally came to a resolution after no hurt feelings, but some hard conversations, and they are set to start repairing that mound tomorrow. So the plan is it'll take about 5 or 6 days. They're going to tear the old one out, and I want them to do some as-builts to say, what does Lake Creek's look like? Make it look exactly like it. I don't want you using your thumb and closing one eye and say, this is about where it needs to be. Want some as-builts, let's have it look exactly like the other one. So that's the goal, is to have that done, and it is at no cost to the district to have that done. So this shows you a little bit of the scope of work, and the concession stand is the white part. The rest of it is what's being renovated right now. The middle part, softball uses, and the other part was really our only field house for the home. Here's some of the work that's done in there. They're taking out all the purple. It's gone. So, and those lockers are gone as well. We've been picking out colors for flooring, very neutral, very nice colors that blend well. Again, these will be wood benches put back in with hooks based on the coach's feedback on that. Here's some other work that's being done, some fencing being torn out. That's the current concession stand, and that's where the new field house addition is going to go. Here's some of the poles you see being put up. They're 60 feet at baseball, and because of the length of home plate to the backstop there, you need 60 feet. Lake Creek's actually 50, and it's closer to the back, and there's no parking lot or concession stand behind Lake Creek's that could be impacted, more or less a parking lot. And then that net will extend down behind the dugout because of that new field house addition. So that'll be something new that you'll see at Montgomery High School. The softball net is 40 feet, same back, just like Lake Creek, exactly the same setup, poles in the back, net in the front. And then here's some other dirt work that's being done behind the home side. And that is it for mine. Any questions?
Board members?
I was going to say, Brad and David and Joe, thank y'all for what y'all do. There's been several things that you've talked about, whether it's the terrazzo at Creekside or the pitching mound at MHS, that you have done a great job of making sure that what we were supposed to get, we're getting, and we're not settling for just what was done. And so I appreciate your intentionality of holding people accountable and having those difficult conversations to make sure that the products that we get are, one, done correctly, that are going to last us, and two, are what we're proud of within our community. So thank y'all for that.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, board members, we still have one more thing to do. We need to go into closed session to discuss the superintendent's annual evaluation. And so we will return to take action on that after this. We're returning from closed session. Board members, is there any action item from closed session related to the superintendent's evaluation?
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's evaluation as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, superintendent's evaluation carries unanimously. Congratulations, Dr. Ruffin. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
The time is 9:41.